The Green Party's term in government has been a contentious issue for many, including their own members, particularly those in the youth wing of the Green Party, the Young Greens. Myself and Mícheál Ó'Fuartháin, on behalf of Frontier, had the pleasure of interviewing 5 then current members of the Young Greens to hear their views on a variety of issues, ranging from their opinions on the party's role in the coalition government to whether or not they'd vote for the Green Party in the next election. If you prefer to read a summarised article of this interview, it'll be linked below. And with that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Yeah, so I suppose just initially, why did you get involved in the Green Party and join the Young Greens?
Ross was actually the one who got me interested in environmental issues in the first place. And I don't know if you know Tate Donnelly, but Tate Donnelly, who ran for the Greens in Cavan Monaghan in the last general, was the one who convinced me to get involved in the Young Greens and then the Green Party. Yeah, I've been very interested in environmental issues and climate change for many years, and I would have always made personal efforts to educate myself and also make my own kind of positive impact where possible. But I joined the Green Party last year because I was very impressed with their ethos and also my performance in last year's European election and local election, and I really liked what they stood for.
Lovely.
I joined the Green Party because of Vincent P. Martin, who's now senator, but I knew him and he kind of asked me to go out canvassing with him with the local elections last year, and then from then I got more interested in the policies and, yeah, like Ross was saying, the ethos of the Green Party. And then it was kind of early this year when the Young Greens were doing a lot of canvassing and stuff, that's when I got involved in the Young Greens.
And Tiernan, what about yourself?
I kind of got into a lot of environmental and social issues, and then I only formally joined because I was kind of reading the Green Party, Social Democrats and Labour manifesto, and the Green Party's manifesto stood out as the best and most aligned with my views. So I actually texted Tara at 2 a.m. one night being like, I want to join the Green Party. And I just basically went out canvassing after that and have been in ever since.
Fair enough. I suppose moving on then from obviously joining the Green Party, I think I'm kind of getting this very much environmentalist aspect from it, which is, I mean, fair enough, the Green Party, as they went to the election, want green, vote green. But let's look at obviously now they're in government. What are all of your thoughts on them individually in the current government? If we want to start with Rossa, maybe?
I would have voted for the Green Party to not go into government. I would use my vote for them not to, and I wasn't happy with the decision that or not the decision, but happy with the vote. It was disappointing. It was sad, and now that they're in the government, I don't think it's going as well as it could have, and I don't think it's really aligned with Green Party policy. Green Party policy is not what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, I was against the programme for government. I was disappointed with a lot of aspects from it, and I just didn't think it was as progressive as they were trying to make it seem. Then when they went in, I was hopeful that possibly our TDs could vote and align themselves with Green Party policies, but it just seems that they're not doing that. Although some things aren't agreed in the programme for government, they're still voting against like our own values and stuff. So then I was even more disappointed that at convention, our actual party voted against a motion that would allow us to vote with our own policies if something wasn't agreed in the programme for government. So I'm just completely disillusioned at the moment and hoping that the Young Greens are listened to more from now on so the Green Party doesn't actually lose their values.
And Tiernan, what about yourself?
I'm going to echo a lot of the same points. I was thoroughly against going into government. I thought the programme for government was just a lousy excuse of a document that portrayed a lot of our ideals. Lorna Bogue, a councillor down in Cork, I was, I think, inspired a lot by her. She called it out for what it was, talked about all the flaws in the document and since going in, we've voted against restoring PUP payments, voted for evictions. It's just been a disaster, and the climate bill that's come out of it isn't even worth going in. I personally think we could have got more done in opposition than this programme for government has shown.
Tara, do you want to end it off there then for this question?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, same as everybody else, I was against this from the beginning. I remember reading it and actually being quite shocked at just how bad the programme for government was. So I went on the radio calling for people to vote against it. I canvassed hard against it, and in the end, while the Young Greens voted overwhelmingly against it, the party membership voted overwhelmingly in favour, and it's led to a lot of people leaving, a lot of our really good friends leaving, a lot of our good friends staying but being very disillusioned. The climate bill is blue writing on blue paper. The PFG was even worse. We voted against our own ideals, and we voted to ensure that we will not vote with our own policies where things are not covered in the programme for government. So anger isn't the word really, and disappointment isn't strong enough either.
Can I just Micah, just before we move on, I want to just check one thing, because I remember at the time when the programme for government was being voted on, and it was very much with the three parties, it was kind of assumed that both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would vote in favour of it, and the Greens were obviously the outlier at the time. It was kind of, well, will they or won't they? And the big thing was that you need to get at least 2/3 of majority among the membership to get through with the programme for government. Given the stuff I saw online, it looked like it was very much, it could go either way. And then we saw around, I think was it 77% voted in favour of the programme for government. Was that a shock to you guys particularly, or did you see it coming, or is it just me from an outsider perspective not knowing the inner workings of the Greens? Were you as surprised as the rest of us were?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there was kind of a sinking feeling, but I knew rightly that the Young Greens were going to go against it, but I didn't know what way the party membership would go for it, and I wasn't exactly inspired by the opposition I'd seen to it, like the amount of opposition, and I kind of had the sinking feeling all along that we were going to do it.
If anyone else wants to jump in on that point before we get into the next question either, or is it just kind of echoed sentiment around what Tara said?
I think a lot of fear-mongering was used, and that's weighted a lot. It was a lot of, if you don't do this, the world's going to be underwater, your kids are going to have nothing to look forward to, the future's going to go down. They used celebrity influences from America as well, which they got Mark Ruffalo in. Now, yeah. Mark Ruffalo, I not to disrespect him, but I doubt he is a connoisseur of Irish politics, and really understood. I'd be surprised if he read the programme for government before speaking on it. He just saw no LNG, and now looking at the reports that are coming out, it looks like LNG is going to go ahead anyway, because we didn't even vote to ban it. We just voted not to give it public funding. So, it didn't surprise me, because they were trying to use tactics to sway voters into basically thinking it's this or the whole planet's going to burn,
Yeah, so I suppose moving on, obviously we saw the publication of the first budget of the coalition government, and what has your reaction been to the publication of the budget on Tuesday?
I haven't fully gone through the budget myself, but I've read Lorna Bogue's and a lot of other people's reports on it. And from even a webinar we did the other night with Sinead Mercier and Sean McCabe, I think everyone's the same with, at least there is a climate bill, but it would have been the exact same thing had it been Fine Gael doing it at the start. I don't think having the Green Party in government made much of a difference to the climate bill, to what Fine Gael were writing before, when they were going to be in government, when the climate bill was going to be agreed. I don't see many wins, or as big of a win as it's trying to be as. And I'm disappointed with that as well. It's I just have the same feeling towards everything at the moment. It's just, everything's trying to be they're trying to sell the big parts of it as something that only the Green Party could have done or could have achieved, and it was something that was already agreed upon before.
Do any of you think there was any kind of victory for the Green Party in any of the budget announcements?
The budget as a whole, I certainly think compared to last year's budget has a lot of wins. There's a lot of funding for services that are needed, an increase in mental health, increase in healthcare, increased on climate. But if we're going to be increasing money for that kind of stuff, and then also, increasing horse racing and greyhound racing another 10 million to a figure near 100 million, it's somewhere around 96 million euro that's going from the government to greyhound and horse racing, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because you're just showing that you're spineless, because you're basically, there's no point in putting in some policies and then at the same time donating to an industry that pretty much betrays a lot of Green Party ideals. Like, greyhound racing is completely inhumane, and government support for it, a Green Party government giving an extra 10 million to raise the number up to 100 million is just absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, anyone else have any opinions?
Yeah, I have a bit here. Basically, I wasn't optimistic when we were waiting for the budget at all, and yeah, this is an argument made that it's more progressive than it would have been, and I don't doubt it. However, it's still not very progressive. The carbon tax that was outlined in the programme for government is not the ESRI model. It is regressive. It is not progressive like the Green Party policy is, and like the ESRI model is. So we brought in a regressive carbon tax that's going to hurt people, especially lower income people and people living in rural areas who've no public transport. So I was really, really disappointed to see that in there when they won't raise the income tax, that sort of thing. As well, there's really no great strides made toward a just transition whatsoever, because they're bringing in a regressive tax on people who can't afford to change. So they're really prioritising the model of making individuals change their behaviour instead of going after big business and corporations who are the people causing the problems in the first place. And just, again, the stuff about the greyhound racing, or not the greyhound racing, the horse racing, sorry, I was really shocked to see that in there, because the fact that we can't put our foot down on something that is so inhumane and we actually raise the funding for it is absolutely horrifying to me.
And do you think the Greens really had much of an influence then on the budget?
I mean, it's hard to say, really. I wasn't in the room, obviously, and you can definitely see green fingerprints on it. But there's been an awful lot of talk of, oh, this is going to be green fingerprints on a blue canvas. And I genuinely don't think that was worth going into government for. To have to prop up stuff we don't believe in, have to prop up pushing the idea of personal responsibility over corporations and big business being the ones that should take responsibility for climate change, going after lower income people and letting others away without a raise in income tax. I just don't think the green fingerprints were worth it. And that's all it is it's fingerprints.
Looking at the party now, as opposed to when you were obviously out canvassing for them in the last general election, how big has the difference been in the party's position to things now from a membership policy, not just as obviously they're going to vote in favour of bits that they don't certainly agree with in the government? I think we saw Joe O'Brien abstained in a vote, and was it Nessa Horgan voted against the government on a specific vote as well. I think it was around rent freezes. But in regards to, from a membership perspective and what you're hearing on the ground, how different is the party's current position on issues that they held during the general election different to now?
If nobody else is...
Yeah, you want her.
Yeah, I can go. So, well, we've obviously seen an exodus of members in the last while, and even more so a disillusionment of members who are still around. So, I mean, a lot of the views that are being pushed are more, I'm not going to say right-wing views, but more right-wing views. And it's a lot of the louder people now who feel emboldened by the fact that we have voted for the PFG that can now say, oh, well, you're wrong because we voted against you the last time. So I think a lot of people are feeling emboldened to say things that actually aren't Green Party policy, that haven't been decided by our policy council, and they are getting away with it.
Mark, maybe do you want to jump in there?
So, I think with the Green Party in government, there's a few problems. Firstly, is that, obviously they were forced to vote in favour of things that they don't agree with, or vote against things that they do agree with. And as sort of communication level, they're not getting ahead of that. They're sort of either letting the opposition and the media sort of decide the narrative on that. instead of just trying to, trying to tell the members upfront what it is exactly that they're doing. They're not saying, okay, we had to vote against this, but this is the reason why, and here's what we want to do in future, and what we're going to fight for in government. So that sort of omission of, communication in the Green Party is worrisome. Then I suppose the sort of second problem with that is that I think they are actually there's that actual genuine shift to the right as well, that they are, that other than government, they're sort of just becoming more and more okay with, the policies of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, which I think is quite disheartening to, members, and especially young members. And then there's a sort of extent in which there's an insecurity at the centre of their membership, of their involvement in government, that whenever members try and push for things that are more progressive, it's almost as if they see that as a push against their involvement in government. Like that happened, I think, in my opinion, at the convention, where there was a motion about inclusion of the just transition as one of the core values of the Green Party, and that was voted against. And I think sort of what was happening is that a lot of members felt like this was, some sort of attack against government involvement, whenever it really wasn't that at all. And so, it's, I think that's it, all I have to say, really.
Maybe Sive, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I agree completely with what Tara and Mark have said, and especially what he was saying about communication. Like, we get emails from the Green Party and they're saying all the good things that have been going on or whatever, even if they're small things that have been going on behind the closed doors. But they don't give any reasons as to why they have to vote, like, with the government. Like, they don't explain any of their, like, and I know they don't have to, because like the ministers are obviously at the table and they're the ones who are agreeing things. They don't have to tell us. But the Green Party is like a grassroots political party, and it feels like there's a real disconnect between TDs and ministers and then like ordinary members of the party. And I think since the emergence of like the Just Transition Greens, people who voted for the programme for government and who supported it, like running up to the vote, have seen that as like an attack on them for voting to go into government as well. And I feel like that's kind of, there's been groups like alienated from the party, and they're seen as like their opinions aren't as important and are slightly ignored, like the Just Transition Greens and the Young Greens. I think that's a big problem at the moment, and it's just getting worse.
Perfect. Tiernan, have you have anything to say then before we head on?
I think just the last thing to add is, I think a lot of members have just turned into this, it's environmentalism or nothing type of ideals, where they're like, I don't really care about anything else. I don't care about homelessness, this kind of stuff. They seem to be fine with the centre-right view of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil as long as they're getting climate action. And I think that's a very dangerous road to go down, because that betrays a lot of ideals that the Green Party were founded on. I mean, we would, like, with that ideals, we'd literally become blue shirts on bikes, as the nickname goes, and I just, a lot of members who would have, kind of cautiously come back after the 2011 government are just like, well, this is history repeating itself. And especially the voting public as well, they're just looking at it like, why would you want to be a Green Party member? Look, you've done it twice now, gone into government and betrayed your ideals. So I think, they've left themselves in a bad position here, because once all the progressive members leave, it's just going to be a party of centre-right environmentalists who are basically just Fine Gael on bikes.
Yeah, leading on from that, obviously there's a lot of maybe discontent toward where the party is currently. So what's keeping you as members of the Green Party at the moment?
That's a hard question. What's the main reason the main thing that's keeping me in the party is the high level of involvement that I already had. I'm, as you know, I'm already the chairperson of Mícheál Ó'Fuartháin, and I'm on 3 other Green Party committees. And I do feel like those committees, regardless of the kind of the people at the top of the party, do have an awful lot to offer like with campaigns and with even just coming together to think about things. I do think we still have an awful lot to offer, but obviously a lot of my groups are very disillusioned with the leadership of the party at the moment and the decisions that they're making at the top level in government. So the reason I'm here at the moment is the people that are kind of on the same page as me with regards to hoping that maybe the Green Party will go with their policies and go with their ethos, basically.
I think I'm here for similar reasons to Rosa. At the moment, I feel I can do more good inside the party than out, that I can influence change. But my patience is wearing thin. You know, there is only so much I can fight internally, and if the party goes down the whole of becoming a centre-right in government party and keeps betraying their ideals, I probably won't stay a member. You know, if progressive voices keep leaving and I'm one of the few people shouting, then I'm not going to keep shouting. I'm not going to waste my time and energy. I'm going to go somewhere that cares about it, whether that's probably not another political party, but you know, somewhere where I can put my good into environmentalism without having to, you know, shout for, you know, social justice to be heard. You know, an organization that cares about that fundamentally, without that having to be something to fight for.
Yeah, and is that maybe for the rest of you, is that why you're still in the party? You feel like you can do more good from within the party than outside of the party?
Yeah, I think like what Tiernan and Ross have said is the same for me. I feel like at the moment anyways, I'm better off in the party than I am outside the party, because if I'm outside the party I can't do anything at all. But in the Young Greens and in my own branch, the Kildare Greens, I feel like there's a lot of like-minded people that are also feeling the same at the moment, and like I'd just rather work together with them than leave at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose one of the things is that I never have to decide once a year whether I want to be a Green Party member or not, and you know, I have a few more months until, you know, my current annual membership expires. And like until then, I just sort of see it as that. I mean, no, you know, because I don't publicly announce my membership, I don't see it necessarily as an endorsement of the current Green Party's position. But right now, as a member of the Green Party, it is, yeah, as everyone else said, it's an opportunity for sort of internal life to try and get things done. And yeah, so I mean, to answer your question, it isn't necessarily that meaningful at the moment of my, you know, current feelings about the party. It's really just, now that I have it, I might as well do something with it.
Perfect. Anyone else have anything different to say?
Well, I'm still here because I still have a seat at the table and I can shout from that seat. Whereas if I'm shouting from Twitter or if I'm shouting in an email, they can easily ignore me. But we all have positions, especially in our own organisation, the Young Greens, that cannot be easily ignored. However, taking the level of harassment, of bullying online, of abuse we have received from some party members and in some cases some party elected officials, it's hard to put an estimation on how long I especially will be remaining in this movement. I can't take much more.
Just on, we spoke a little bit earlier, at least I mentioned that there was obviously votes in which certain Green Party members like Joe O'Brien and Nessa Horgan either abstained or voted against the government on. And I was listening to your speech at the Green Party conference, Tara, about not driving any more Young Greens out the door and really listening. The senior party needs to start listening. Do you think there's any core members of the current Green Party TDs or ministers that are listening to the Young Greens and are trying to take on board what they say?
I mean, there are certain ones that have been in contact. I can't speak for the chairperson before me because I'm only newly elected, but there are certain TDs that have contacted me that have said, oh, I really want to talk to the Young Greens. I really want to sit down and listen. But as it stands, only a few have shown their true colours in this government. So only a few have stood up and said, no, I'm not going to stand for this. Only a few have stood up and said, I'm going to vote with our policies. I'm going to do what's right. So you can probably guess who they are yourselves. But up until now, anyway, the engagement has been slim to none and non-existent from some members of the parliamentary party and the leadership.
If anyone wants to jump in on a similar stance on this, well, because I know it was kind of directed at Tara, but the question is open to everyone as well.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in. Just another thing that I've noticed is certain TDs were very engaging with Tara and myself and Rosa when we won, when we got our seats as chair, and I'm not sure about Sive. But then our own party leader didn't congratulate Tara in any way when she got elected to be chair of the Young Greens, the youth branch of his own party. Like, I don't know how much more of a statement that is not saying anything, making a much louder statement than he could by saying anything. And I think, if you want to engage with us, simply, texting Young Greens, checking in with the chair, asking about what we're doing. It's simple things like that make us feel like we're heard. If we're constantly doing things, and, there are some TDs who probably just don't care that the Young Greens really exist, and that, they just think of us as, an organization in the way. And, it's just, if you don't engage with your youth branch, your party doesn't have a future. Your youth branch are the future. If you leave them in the dust, then your party has an expiry date.
Yeah, so obviously we saw during the week that the Social Democrats had allegedly approached Hazel Chu to defect to the Social Democrats. So do you see any other high-profile Greens defecting from the party?
Possibly, but none in particular. And they're in government now, so I think they might try to, the ones that would have considered it at any point or are considering it now will probably try to make a positive impact while they're in government, at least for now. I don't know where some of them will draw the line.
Because obviously there was quite a lot of talk that Nessa Harrigan could leave at some point, but do you feel now that once you're in government, they'll just see out the term in government and then maybe rethink their position within the party?
I think it is very hard to know, especially because, as we've said, we have very little engagement with the parliamentary party. But I mean, I couldn't see any going just yet, if that makes sense, because I know it's felt like a long time for us, but for them, they're really just getting started in government. Like, the first budget's only just come out, so it's very hard to sort of say, oh, I think this one's going to go then, and I think they're going to go there. Because I think I've seen people leave the Young Greens and go all sorts of places. Do you know what I mean? They've gone to different parties, they've gone to different movements. So it's very hard to pick one in particular and then pick someone you don't really know and say, oh, they're going to go there. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in on that?
I mean, yeah, well, I'll say it's like before, it is really just very speculative to know what exactly, who's going to leave and who's not. But I mean, I'll say is that, the problem with leaving is that there's just no, the Green Party, what drew so many people to the Green Party, a lot of these people, I think, and sort of made them very popular after the election is that it was a structure that existed that was just, good, in the sense that I feel like pretty much all the TDs would not feel very strongly about Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, or Sinn Féin in particular. And I agree with that anyway. And but then if you feel that the Green Party is no longer the option for you, then you're sort of stuck, because the other options are to go somewhere smaller like Labour or the Social Democrats, or to an entirely new party or something, which just comes with its whole set of issues. So I think sort of perhaps one of the main reasons that people are staying is because it just really doesn't seem to be a better option at the moment.
It's actually worth saying here that it's very hard to see Green policy and the 5 pillars of the Green Party reflected in any other party, which is another reason why I think a lot of people aren't running straight to another party.
One thing again we want to touch on, because we mentioned it earlier about the Just Transition Greens. How, I know they're relatively a new concept for the Green Party, and obviously they still need a bit of time to get off their feet and really make some long-lasting implemented change. But how do you feel the current Green Party has reacted to their foundation, and do you think they're, I think I might know the answer to whether you think they've adequately addressed them or not, but do you think they've adequately addressed them now? And if not, do you think they'll adequately address them in the near or long future?
I might step in here. I'm on the committee for the Just Transition Greens. I'm the Welfare and Equality Officer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the party, a lot of the party have, I think, the parliamentary party haven't said much about the JTG. I think internally, though, a lot of party members think the JTG is a front, think it's, some sort of way to break off the party, split it in two, think, we're, there's members of the JTG who've been accused of being in Sinn Féin, these crazy ideas. And I think people are scared of the JTG because they're openly left, they're unapologetic in wanting a just transition. And I think that scares a lot of members. And it's making a lot of them think, they're going to run away, or they're actually all in another party and it's some kind of coup. But I think at the end of the day, what a lot of people don't understand is the JTG was formed because we thought the programme for government wouldn't include a just transition. The aims and goals of the JTG are, because the party's in government, get as many people as possible to stay in this group in the party and fight for a just transition in every way. It's not a front for something else. It's not a secret cult or whatever people think. It is literally a group of people who are scared that the transition will not be just and will leave people behind. And they do not think that that is acceptable and want to hold the Green Party accountable.
Sive, do you maybe want to jump in on this point?
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the party, especially those who voted for the programme for government, think that the Just Transition Greens is purposely divisive. That they're trying to not stir the pot, but that they're trying to attack the Green Party rather than keep them to their core values and try keep policies in line and try to keep the Greens green.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because it's not really being addressed by the party itself, by the executive or by the parliamentary party, I think that's making ordinary members more suspicious of the JTG or something. I don't think people are seeing it for what it is. It's being portrayed as something different and something that it's not, something negative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could totally agree with what Sive and Tiernan are saying. Mm-hmm. And I think I just say it again, that the Just Transition Greens aren't there to attack. They're not there just to criticise or just to point out the negative. They're there for the whole ethos of the idea of a just transition. It's not really just, they're not just there for Green Party decisions. Obviously they are, but for the whole wider issue, just transition is a huge thing in Ireland and worldwide. And if climate change wasn't an issue, well then obviously we're not going to talk about it. But the just transition are there, yes, to keep the Green Party accountable and in government and otherwise, and to promote the idea of what just transition is. So it's not there as a front, and it's not there just to point out faults.
Yeah, there was something I said at the convention actually, which is, if there is no just transition, the transition won't be just. And the Just Transition Greens were set up to ensure that there would be a just transition, to fight for just transition. And because the party are ignoring them, because they're ostracising members, we can already see that the transition isn't just, after one budget.
Yeah, so going on from that, obviously, where do you all see the future of the party going, either in the future of the term of this government and maybe even in the future, as in the next election or next local elections? Where do you see the future of the party going, and does the party have a bright future?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really that optimistic unless things really start to change. I think the way that things are working, the way the party current functions just isn't working at the moment, and that's quite evident. They're almost like polling is hard to interpret sometimes, but it does seem quite evident that they've definitely lost support since the general election and since first entering government. And so I think that's, and even just hearing of people leaving the party, I think that's a big concern, and that's going to be a problem for them in the future. So they really need to, I think the party just needs to change in such a way that, it communicates with members more, and as well as that, it at least tries to be a bit more assertive in government and, fight for more results. I mean, the reality is that already the, climate bill and the current targets have been set, like even NGOs who were initially supportive of the program for government have already, and they probably still do support the government in general, but they are sort of already criticizing the climate bill, for instance, for targets not being strong enough. Those are things that they're going to have to start fighting for a lot more. And if they can't even win that, then it just doesn't create a convincing argument for the party that they're government, but they can't get these things done. So yeah, that's unfortunately why at the moment I'm just not that optimistic.
Yeah, I think the party has two routes they can go down. We can't undo the program for government. We can't undo the members that we've lost. We can't undo anything that's happened in the past year. What we can do is learn from it. We can, it's either the party's going to continue with what they're doing and probably end up like, so many other left parties like Labour, like, I can't remember the name, the Progressive Democrats. Progressive Democrats, they might end up like that, lose all their support, lose all their seats, or they can stand up for what they believe in government, show that we know we've made mistakes, but we're not going to sit down and just prop up this government. We're going to implement what we want in it. We're going to push for as many things as we can. We know we won't get every win. We know we're not going to, we know we're in government now. We know we're not going to get every win. We're going to have to vote against things we don't like. But at the same time, make sure that people know, and that the voters know, and that, the other coalition members know that they're still going to fight for what they believe in. And they're going to make sure that, it's not just a Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael government, that the Green Party are in this government, that they're going to get policies implemented and they're actually going to do stuff that they believe in, instead of sitting back and accepting watered down green policy for the sake of having a seat at the table. Because there's no point in having a seat at the table if you're not getting any food. If everyone else is having dinner and you're sitting there with an empty plate, you may have a seat at the table, but I mean, are you really getting anything out of it?
Tara and Rossa, if you want to jump in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be optimistic for the future of the Green Party if the matters continue the way they are. If the Green Party continue in this government without implementing anything they would have stood for before, and anything that actually will create a better future, why is there a government apart from creating a better life for people now and in the future? It's not a game. It's actually there for a reason. I'm not giving my time voluntarily to the Green Party for fun. It actually is for a reason. I actually do believe in things, or a better future for everyone, and a more equal standpoint for everyone, and I'm sure everyone here is the same. So if they continue the way they are, then I can't see any reason to stay and any reason to believe in it. And I don't think a lot of other people will either. I don't think a lot of people will support the Green Party as much as they would have, and it probably wouldn't have been for much. I don't think 70% of people of members of the Green Party would have voted for it for anything, because it didn't work out. And then, so yeah, that's my rant.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to fool me once, fool me twice, doesn't it, really? Mm-hmm. The Green Party fooled the Irish people once, and they've hoodwinked people again. And unless they start to turn around, implement things that make people's lives better, be unequivocally left in their stances, finally grow a spine and stand up to their coalition partners and say, no, this is what we want and you're going to give it to us, there's going to be absolutely no future for the Green Party. And the worst part is I can't see them doing that. So I really don't think there is going to be a future for the party at all.
And then, Sally, do you share the same views?
Yeah, pretty much the same as everyone else. I can't see them changing in their ways. I can see them just going through the next 4.5 years and just like get more cycle lanes, and them thinking that's a massive win coming out of the government. That's the only thing that they've really done, and then the party just completely dwindling. I don't know if if they listened to all of their party members, if they listened to the Young Greens and if they listened to the Just Transition Greens and actually tried to implement change from the government, like our councillors, I can speak for like the Kildare councillors, but like our councillors do, then I think the party dwindling as much, and then like possibly have a future, but like if they keep going on the way that they're going, future for them or for us.
I suppose we're on to our final question now. And first of all, thanks a million, because you've been brilliant so far, and I know we've kept you a long time. I'm going to take the hopefully safe assumption that you all gave your first preference to the Greens in the last election and ask, if there was an election called tomorrow, would you give the same candidate you gave a first preference to a first preference now?
Well, we are in the same constituency, and our candidate was a young Green called Tate Donnelly, and as I mentioned at the beginning, he was the reason I joined the party in the first place. He's committed to a just transition. He's committed to all our things. He's a dear friend of mine. I truly believe that his heart's in the right place, and it's a shame that he wasn't elected. So I definitely give Tate my number one again. Yeah. Well, I wasn't actually eligible to vote in the last election. I wasn't 18 yet, but if there was an election tomorrow, well then, and I would vote for Tate Donnelly, and I canvassed for Tate Donnelly even though I wasn't able to vote. But yes, and even if Tate Donnelly wasn't running, it'd be likely that I would vote for a Green Party candidate, even though I don't know.
Saif, maybe just get your opinion on that.
It's in my constituency, for the person who ran, I wouldn't vote for them. I wouldn't give them my first preference vote again. And it's purely because of our opinions have completely clashed since the programme for government, and I've seen a real change in their ideals or what they said were their ideals, and I definitely would not give them my number one now. No.
Mark, your opinion on that?
So yeah, I'm in the Dundee constituency, and I suppose what I'd say is, I suppose I've actually been very impressed with the party at a local level in my area. That's seen quite a lot of good changes. So I would say that if it was for the local election anyway, if that's the next one, should give the candidate my number vote. But for the actual general election, I'm not really sure yet. I mean, the thing is, I don't think there's been anyone who's announced that they're going to run in the constituency and who I think would be a better fit for my number one vote. I mean, I might vote for the Social Democrats next time, but I don't really think that. I'm not really sure if that would be an actual general reflection of my views or not. And I think it's not really that important anyway, because the Social Democrats are currently not very, very strong position in my constituency, so they're an unlikely potential TD. So the answer is I don't know, and but if someone better came along, I might vote for them instead.
Okay.
If there was a general election called tomorrow, I would find it very hard to vote Green again. I would take a lot of convincing But, you know, the Green Party I'd be voting for this time wouldn't be the Green Party I voted for last time. It wouldn't be for the same reasons. It'd be for the candidate, not the party.
Mhm.
You know, I do like my local candidate, and he's very approachable and someone you can talk to. But, you know, I wouldn't be voting for him because he's a Green and a member of the Green Party. It would be purely based on that. And honestly, you know, on the day I might decide to give, you know, someone else a first preference. Honestly, I would completely depend. You know, it wouldn't be that easy choice that it was last time. It wouldn't be just, I'm going to vote Green, I want to vote Green. It would be, you know what, I'm not sure if I want to vote Green. I like my candidate, but I can't stand by what they've done.
It seems clear from our discussion with members of the Young Greens that the divide that existed between the youth wing and the senior party coming up to the vote on the programme for government has only grown, especially now with the resignation of both the chair of the Young Greens Tara Gilsenan and member and events officer of the Just Transition Greens and chairperson of the Queer Greens Tiernan Mason. The question now is, will we see an attitude change amongst those in the parliamentary party, or will business go on as usual, and will adequate measures and transparency be brought forward to deal with the quickly falling membership of the Young Greens? Only time will tell.